My mother asked me, does he beat you? Does he drink? Does he womanize? What is it? And I say, Mom, it's nothing. It's just that.
When you look back, what are you proud of?
I'm very proud of the fact that I didn't give up, Suhasini. I shot for my first movie last month.
Oh, in 50s, you started a new career.
When a man supports you, he's giving you solutions. When a woman supports you, she's listening. And oftentimes, we just need somebody who's listening to us. Nobody prepared me for the fact that women do have postpartum depression. I just didn't know. I just thought I was sad for no reason. I married at 20. 20, you are no more than a child. You're actually a child.
She spent years telling other people's stories. The rebels, the rule breakers, the women who rewrote the script. And somewhere along the way, she wrote her own beautiful chapter too. From newsrooms to narratives that matter, she's built a life where words have weight and every story counts. She knows that reinvention isn't about starting over, it's about starting truer. Welcoming Sudha Menon. And this is her story of a second sunrise. Hi Sudha.
Hi.
Brought up in Bombay.
Yes.
Chaotic or fast life or hectic life?
Chaotic, mad, crazy. I love that I'm not in Bombay anymore. I live in the relative peace of Pune.
Okay.
So people say Pune is a bit boring, but it is slow, it is cultured, it's full of people who love literature and dramatics and theatre. And I love my small city life. And occasionally when I feel bored, I go back to Bombay for a day and then come running back because it's so peaceful to be back home.
But we have to go back to Bombay because that's where you grew up.
Yes, all my childhood memories are
there. Yes. So I always feel as an outsider, Bombay, everybody's in a race.
Absolutely.
It's so fast, it's like a competition.
So Bombay was not difficult for me. In fact, the only thing difficult about Bombay was a local train.
Mm-hmm.
It was crazy. I think I finally gave up Bombay because that 1.5 hour trudge from suburban Bombay to the Times of India where I worked eventually got me. I said, I don't want to be part of this anymore and let me go back to Pune. I studied in Pune. I studied journalism in Pune. And so I went back to Pune. But I always say that if you want to make something out of yourself, Bombay is the place. Yes. I think every young person should be bundled into Bombay for a year. And if that person can survive Bombay, then he'll survive anywhere in the world.
Okay. So you said you studied journalism in Pune. So you were a very young journalist. And you worked in big companies like the Hindu Business Line and also the Mint.
Yes.
And you were young and you worked what you studied for. Did you see happiness there?
Totally. As a young child, I was very, very shy, very reclusive, totally friendless because of my shyness. And so every time I felt shy and lonely, I would read a book. And I discovered myself through the stories that I eventually used to write for the newspapers. And Suhasini, I don't know whether I can ever explain to you the joy and the pride that I felt when my first byline appeared on the front page of the Free Press Journal. That was like every journalist's training ground, the Free Press Journal in Bombay. And after that, one of India's most iconic editors, Vinod Mehta, he set up something called the Indian Post. And I was part of that startup team. And to see my name on that front page of a newspaper, it gave me everything. It gave me meaning. It gave me a voice. It gave me my identity. And so much happiness. 24 years I followed that just because I believed that if I stay in this space, I will be happy and I will have an identity that nobody can question.
So you were happy doing your job, but you wanted to find happiness in marriage young.
Very
young marriage and then plunging into matrimony. What were you thinking? What were your expectations?
I think I was not thinking.
So from outside, if anyone saw your family, happy family, husband and wife, both Malayalis.
Yes.
Yes, and daughter, and like a lot of happiness. But emptiness, only you will know that. Were you able to explain to them, or did you hide the emptiness for some time?
Funnily enough, Suhasini, there was none of this. I think what happened in my first marriage was that I married at 20. And at 20, when I look back now, at 20, you are no more than a child. You're actually a child.
Yeah.
And I had no idea of what marriage and responsibilities would bring. Plus, I was on the cusp of a very, very exciting career. And I'm hugely ambitious, hugely. And my husband was, my then husband was also very ambitious. And I think we were just two people who just discovered that they cannot handle this entire thing. The demands of a career, the demands of running a house, looking after a child. Suddenly you have this little soul who is totally dependent on you. And you don't know whether to focus on your house, your relationship, or your work, or your baby. And I think nobody prepared me for the fact that women do have postpartum depression. I just didn't know. I just thought I was sad for no reason. And I think nobody really, there is so much ignorance about what a marriage means, and in some ways, I think now people are growing up to that. Now young people prefer to first stay together, explore whether they are able to, get along with each other. We got along famously, but once our careers picked up and the baby came along, we just didn't have a chance.
Could you tell your partner that I'm unhappy? Was there that freedom to tell your partner?
Yes. He's, like I said, he's my closest pal today. And he was my closest pal even then. It was just, we just decided that he wanted something else. His career path was different. My career path was different. And I think it was just two young people throwing in the towel and saying, we can't handle this.
But when you say and make the decision also, there's a lot of guilt. You talked about guilt.
Ton of guilt.
Can you tell me?
My family wouldn't understand. My family wouldn't understand why I went against all of their wishes and married, because he's a Christian, I'm a thoroughbred Hindu Menon girl, and I went against all of them to say this is the man I want to spend my life with. And then they just couldn't understand how 12, 13 years down the line, I wanted to walk away. We wanted to walk away. And my mother asked me, does he beat you? Does he drink? Does he womanize? What is it? And I said, Mom, it's nothing. It's just that I said, I don't know. But no, he doesn't beat me. He doesn't womanize. He doesn't drink. He's a beautiful soul. And my mother said, then I think you're mad. I think you should reconsider. I think you should. And she told me something that made me very depressed. She said, you feel like, I used to say that I don't feel special anymore. And now I realize it was not him saying that you're not special. It was me not feeling special enough. I was just a lost soul. I was lost because I was torn between my career and looking after a baby who I absolutely adore, and not doing enough for any of the things that I was doing. So I think it was me more than anybody else. But to this day, my ex is my mother's most beloved son. And my father, when I told him, and my father was one of the most supportive men I know. And my father said, please think deeply and think hard about what you're doing. Because oftentimes what you think is something wrong in a relationship is just something that requires a little soul searching. And I didn't listen to him. And that is the story.
So when you decided to be on your own,
yes,
what was the support system you had? Did you have friends? Did you have female friends? Or
my support system always was my parents. Always. Even to this day, my mom is my biggest support system. She is old now and frail, and she has dementia, and she cannot remember what is happening. But she always knows that if the daughter says, "Mom, please, I want to sit down for 20 minutes quietly. Can I just sit with you? And will you be okay if I don't talk?" And she'll say, "You are my darling child, and whatever you want, I'll do." And so she was always my support system, and my sisters. And I have a huge network of women friends. And I think every woman must have that network of female friends, because no man will ever understand what being a woman is, what being a mother is, what being a woman who has to play so many roles is, and then still smile and move on like a warrior. That no man is ever going to understand. So women have to be friends with other women. Women have to support other women. Women have to sort of cheer on other women. And I'm so happy to be on this show now, because you're doing something which is going to give a lot of hope and a lot of motivation to other women. So,
I agree with you when you say it's very hard for women to explain what happens when you have a child. I remember I had just delivered my son, and in six months or 4 months, I was acting in a film. And there was this young hero who's my friend. He's also had a couple of children. So and the whole film was about parenthood and parenting. And there was a very emotional scene between the two of us. And I said, the depth I feel, you can never feel. He said, "What is this?" I said, giving birth, especially a natural birth, it gives you something that cannot be explained in words, which you said. That's why female friends understand. So when female friends kind of are there for you, supporting you, was it listening or sympathizing, or both happened?
It was listening. I think that is what, when a man supports you, he's giving you solutions. When a woman supports you, she's listening. And oftentimes, we just need somebody who's listening to us. When we go on a rant with our husband saying, "You don't do this for me, you don't do that, and I'm sick, and I cannot take this anymore," the man will immediately say, "Why can't we appoint another caretaker for your mother? Why can't we have some?" I say, "Listen, I just need to talk. Can you just listen?" That was what it was. A lot of my friends at that time, when my marriage ended, and I had by then she was grown up, fairly grown up, but I needed somebody who would just not question why. A lot of my friends would just come, bring lunch, and sit around. We would have chai and we would discuss. They would just allow me to talk. And I think that's what I needed. I just wanted somebody to listen patiently and without judgment.
Okay.
So, that.
You said in your relationship, in your first relationship, there was this child and you didn't understand postpartum, what it did to you. So it was a change in you that you couldn't accept in that particular situation.
Absolutely.
So how did that change? What was the way forward? Did it happen gradually, or it just suddenly happened?
No, I think my parents understood. My parents understood. And one day they just said, "You need to leave her with us, because we will be able to give her the best care ever." And they loved her to death. Even to this day, I remember my father would put my 3-year-old child on his lap and just go on shaking her like this till she slept. And sometimes we would all take turns to put her to bed. She wouldn't sleep without that rocking motion. So when that happened, and when I knew that I'm not alone in this business of having to take care of my child. And it's, I remember one day I came back from work. I used to work for the Independent at that time, Times of India's publication. And my routine was so crazy. I would leave home at 9 in the morning, spend an entire day working, come back at 10. And then I would know that my child is going to cry till 3 o'clock, because she was a very colicky baby. And then that would mean that I have to stay up till 3 o'clock. And one day I just collapsed. I couldn't just take it. And then the family doctor came home, and then he checked my pressure and all of that. And then he went out into the drawing room, and I think I could hear him talking with my father. And then he came back with my father, and he said, I think she just needs to go back to work. She needs to go back to work only and know that this child is also a shared responsibility. And obviously she can't cope. So all of you can take over. And I think my father was the happiest person that day because he could officially take charge of my child and just spoil her rotten.
Okay.
So I think that shared responsibility helped.
So moving forward, finding happiness.
Yes.
Another relationship.
Yes.
Were you scared how this time it's going to be, or were you thought enough that you knew there will be problems and I'll be mature enough to handle it?
Yes, I was almost 40 when I decided that I was ready to, be in a relation, in a committed relationship. Between my first marriage and the next, there was no space in my life for anything other than my career and my daughter. I was just insanely ambitious. And, I'm so happy to be sitting here and saying that because when I was in that stage, that was many, many years ago, there was no space in society for a woman who was very ambitious. Ambition was a bad word for a woman. And a lot of women who lived in the, in the community that I lived in would often tell me, why are you so ambitious? They'd say, kya karna hai itna? Basically, what is driving you? You have a child, you have to look after her and then focus on your career, not the other way. And so I'm happy to be saying that I was so ambitious. In those days, I would say, no, I'm not ambitious. I just like my job. You have to almost apologize.
Yeah, you underplay it. And
yes, always.
Or hide it. Hide that fact that...
you just had to be this very happy, pleasant woman who wanted just domesticity.
Yeah.
That's the kind of... I'm sure you have gone through that phase also, that where people have said that she's too ambitious. She doesn't need to be doing so much.
Yeah.
And so when I decided finally that I would get married, I was almost 40. I was terrified. I was not sure how that would work out. Not because I had any doubt about the person I was going to marry, but I was worried whether I would be able to get along with another person. By the time you're 40, you have your own life. You're doing so much with your own life. So I was like worried about, will I be able to create the space for another person in my life? A marriage has a rhythm of its own, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Like two people have their own rhythms and then they merge into one rhythm. And then that life is a shared life. And I was not sure at 40 I would have that kind of all the adjustments that you have to make. So, I was terrified. But I did it anyway. And now it's like 22, 23 years. And I'm very, very happy that I took that risk. And it's also, when you get married the second time, you're also wiser because you will not make the same mistakes that you made when you were in the first relationship. When nobody told you that these are the things that you can fix with a simple kind of chat with each other. When you're young, you're too hot-blooded and you're too stubborn and you don't do a lot of things that the older you will do. Have a conversation, sit down over a cup of tea and discuss and say, listen, this hurts me, or listen, let's do it this way, not this way. So it is, I think marriage later in life has been good.
Okay, so living in Pune, better weather.
Yes,
and
lovely weather.
And a good partner.
Yes.
You get along well with him.
Yes, absolutely.
No problems. A daughter who's a pastry chef.
Yes, absolutely.
And you say she's married to a Tamilian. Okay.
Yes.
Is life settled? Is it settled now?
Yes. Yes. Also, the fact that she's gone off to London.
Yeah.
She's as ambitious as I am. But when she got married, she had to shut down the patisserie that she had. But she's now in London and will start something there. Am I settled? No. I think I have no intention of settling.
Good. I like
have to, yes. I think every day is an opportunity where you can do something new, learn something new, do something for the first time. And I think when I reached 50, Suhasini, I decided that I would do something new every year. And I have. And I'm finding so much joy in that, that there is so much to life, than just dal chawal.
I know.
that eventually that's what is expected from a woman. That by the time she's 50, she will sort of slow down, get ready to look after grandchildren, look after the house, cook for the family. And I call it the dal chawal routine. I'm full of admiration for women who can carry it off, but it's not for me. Like, I think that cup of tea I make for myself and my husband in the morning is the most time I can spend in the kitchen, because at heart I'm a wanderer. So I'm always looking out of the window and dreaming of, oh, I can do this, oh, I can do that, I can. So after my 50s have been, post 50 years have been most liberating and the most adventure I've had.
Yeah.
Like every year there is another adventure that I will do. And right now, even though I have chronic backache, at this moment I'm learning salsa dancing.
Okay.
So I think it is so much fun, because suddenly at this age you have some time for yourself, isn't it? Like you're done with parenting, you have a solid relationship with your spouse. Nobody expects much from you, and that itself is so much liberating, because when nobody expects anything from you, you're free to do your own thing, and that's pretty much what I'm doing.
So a casting company calls you
Yes.
and say there is an ad shoot,
Yes.
and next day you show up and you start being in front of camera.
I-
Somebody was writing 2010, you wrote a book called Leading Ladies.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
and
So
how did you do that?
So after 22 years of journalism, I thought that I was sleepwalking through journalism. And I have this thing that I get bored very fast. My boredom threshold is very, very low. So I said, enough of journalism now, I want to do something new. And it was my husband who actually told me, you've always wanted to write a book, because I read so much, or I read so much when I was a child. I had this secret dream as a child that one day I would have a book with my name on the cover. I never told that dream to anybody, because where I come from, middle class family, and also who I was, like very, very reserved and shy. What are the chances that I could write a book and see my name on the cover? But in 2010, when my book came, and in 2009, when I quit my job with Mint, and I was going crazy because suddenly I didn't have anything to do. And my husband said, you wanted to write a book, this is the time. There are no deadlines, nothing, so just write a book. And I just started writing like my life depended on it. And in under 1 year, my book was in the market. And I think it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because that book gave me another stint at doing something new. I got the most amazing female friendships out of that book, because it followed the lives of inspiring women. And all of them to this day are my biggest cheerleaders. So I made friends. I had a huge adventure. I loved going on that book tour and meeting new people, and women coming up to me and saying that this book has been so liberating for me, because I wanted to do something with my life and never had the courage, but now I'm going to do something.
Okay.
So, but like I said, my threshold for boredom is very high. And so after writing 4 books, I was again feeling, like, no, I have to do something more with my life. And then I was on a book launch sitting in Kolkata, and suddenly the phone rang and said, I'm from so-and-so casting company, and we're doing this shoot. It is tomorrow. Would you be interested? And I had no idea what. Like, I don't think I ever dreamt that I would be in front of a camera. Never. Because I'm basically very, very, I used to be a very shy person in front of anybody. But I said, yes, I'll do it. And so I took the late night flight. And next evening, I was in the studio without knowing what is going to happen there. But, when the lights went on and action came, some sort of magic happened. I don't know how I can explain it to you, but I just felt that I belong there. Because suddenly I was another person. There was a little girl, and I was that little girl's mother. And I just enjoyed that. It was just, I think the total ad was a thumbnail series or a thumb stopper series. And the total ad was like 10 seconds or something. But I just felt so nice in front of that camera and being that little girl's mother. And I never looked back since then. I'm enjoying this phase immensely.
So you're doing ad campaigns, you're doing web series.
I shot for my first movie last month.
In 50s, you started a new career. So you just told us that you were doing salsa. Is there anything else that you're going to try now?
I want to learn music. Like that is, I've always wanted to sing because in my family, my father was a great, he loved music and not classical, just Hindi film music, Mukesh and him, Manna Dey and Hemant Kumar and Lata Mangeshkar, Shamshad Begum, all of this. And so we grew up listening to him sing. We sang along. And so there is some bug there which says I have to learn singing. So I'll do that next year.
So you've done so many things, okay? So you were scared once at 20, but there are women in their 40s who are still scared to take the next step. What would you tell them?
Absolutely. I think if you are living in a family situation and, and you have to sort of, I think the first thing you have to do is to take everybody into confidence. Get them on your side. Because you know what they say about raising a child, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to run a home also, So I think having your family on your side is the biggest support and motivation a woman can get. Once she knows that, because we have been told from childhood, right, that you have to look after your family. No matter what you do, you have to look after your family also. So once you get your family on your side, I think that is the first big battle one. Very important is to stop the fear in your mind. I think a lot of us women suffer from that chatter which says, no, you're not good enough. No, you don't know anything. No, what chance do you have? That person knows better than you. No, I think you have to change the dialogue you have with yourself. I think I once interviewed the chairperson of Axis Bank, the first woman chairperson of Axis Bank, Shikha Sharma. And she told me the toughest battle that you have is the one that you have inside your head with yourself. So you have to change that dialogue. You have to tell yourself constantly that this is possible. And really, I'm saying this from experience because when I was a child, I never imagined I could do anything with my life. I thought I'm always going to be that backbencher sitting in the last bench in class, hoping the teacher wouldn't notice her. But I have actually pressed the reinvent button on myself. I have systematically told myself that you have to do it. And if you can tell that to yourself every day, there is nothing that will stop you.
You said that 50s is the best chapter in your life. And this book, Feisty at 50, what is your favorite part?
Every part is my favorite part, but I think my most favorite part, there are two. One is that part where I reignite my relationship with my mother. I think it is so important for all of us, We live in a very fast-paced world and nobody has time for anybody. But I think that if you can go back and reconnect with your parents, if they're alive, and if you're lucky enough to have them, I think reconnecting with them will reconnect you back to your soul, because I think that in that pace of life, we sort of lose a bit of ourselves because we're so busy chasing something, the next goal, the next something, the next big car, the next big job, that we lose them. And I think all our wisdom, all our blessings actually come from them. So I lost my father almost 10 years. And when I did that, my mother sunk into dementia. And we thought that we lost her. And then I said, let me do something for her. And so I took a month off from my writing. And I was writing a book and I said, never mind, I need to take her. So I took her to London where my sister's house was free at that moment. So that entire summer I and my mother, we were just alone there. And every afternoon she would cook for me. And then she would talk about the how she grew up in Kerala, and about the way she learned cooking from her, from her aunts and her mother, and that conversation eventually gave her back her joy. She was in deep depression, refused, could not could not pull herself out of that grief. But this joyful memories that came from talking to me, that pulled her out of depression, and it kind of gave me back my mother, kind of gave me back my soul. And eventually that became a book called Recipes for Life.
Okay.
Yes, that book actually, Recipes for Life, actually had its genesis in the conversations that I had with my mother in London.
Okay.
And then we came back and that book got forgotten. But during COVID then, I said, I started this, I have a collection of precious recipes from my mother. Now let me make this a bigger project. And that's how I wrote that book.
Okay.
The other part I like in Feisty at 50 is that part where I'm telling retailers, like I don't know if you have experienced it, but I experience it all the time. That you go to buy, I actually once went when I was 48 or 50 or something. I went to a makeup place. I wanted to buy some cosmetics. I specifically wanted to buy a red lipstick. And I went there, and that young person at the makeup counter, she just wouldn't give me that red lipstick. She would show me various ugly shades, and I would say, listen, I want that red lipstick. And she said, ma'am, aunties your age wear only brown. And I was so annoyed. I said, and then after that, so I walked out of there. I didn't buy that lipstick. Then I went to a store selling jeans, and I wanted a pair of denims for myself. And searched high and low, couldn't find my size. And so I asked the salesperson, do you have size 32? I'm looking for indigo jeans. And he looked at me and said, ma'am, our biggest size is 30. And that also we make very few. So that kind of ageism and that kind of arrogance with which it was said, it was like, we only make denims for young people. And that really annoyed me. And that's why I wrote in that chapter that I have worked bloody hard to make some money. So I have that money to buy your 6,000 rupee jeans. That young girl who's coming here to wear your size 22 jeans doesn't have the money to buy that. So that was like me telling the retail industry. I think our retail industry is one of the biggest in the world now. So many of us are spending so much. I want to tell them that don't discount women of a particular age. A woman of over 50 is not like not going under the woodwork or going to disappear. She's going to be very much there. Get used to it. And if you want her money, you pander to her needs. Yeah. So I think that is very important for me. And I think it's important for all of us of a particular age of women to say that we are here to stay. So get used to us. We are not going away anywhere.
Okay. So you said bank venture to a front runner. I don't know whether it's 11 years or 20 years. When you look back, what are you proud of?
I'm very proud of the fact that I didn't give up, Suhasini. That I didn't give up. There was every reason for me to give up because I didn't come from a space where anybody gave me anything on a platter. I have had to really struggle every step of the way, and struggle not just with society, but struggle also with myself. That self-belief was not there when I was young. I didn't believe that I was worth anything much. So to step up and to fight those negative dialogues that I had with myself, and then to not give up for all these years, I'm very proud of that fact. I hope I'm not sounding arrogant, but I think I'm really proud of the fact that I didn't fall by the wayside. And I decided that I'm going to make something of my life.
Absolutely. So you said that you are trying to do something different every year. So I have a role for you. You're a captain of a test cricket match team because there are 2 innings.
Yes.
So
yes.
I want you to describe what second innings means to you in one sentence.
Endless possibilities. Endless possibilities. I think the second innings of anybody's life is just every day is a promise of a new opportunity, something to do for yourself that will bring joy. I think at the end of the day, what is it that we are doing all this for? For joy. And so your second innings, when you're done with everything else, and when all the mess is out of the way, then I think there is so much to do with your life. Like every second that you live is a promise of something new.
I think you are giving me some motivation, making me feel younger and wanting me to try something new every time.
Yeah.
So
you can begin with salsa.
Yeah.
I'm telling you the joy it gives me when I dance.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
do you dance?
Of course, I think I'm a senior than you in terms of trying out different things.
Lovely.
I do Zumba, I do salsa. I've just started Bharatanatyam at the age of 63.
Wow.
And my teacher is saying, you are ready for Arangetam? I'm saying, no, I'm not dancing for the audience, I'm dancing for myself.
For myself, yeah. I think that's a great message to give women, that dance like nobody's
watching.
Yeah. Dance.
Absolutely.
I think that is the most liberating thing you can. Oftentimes in the bathroom, but nobody's looking and you're dancing your heart out. I think that's something that all of us can do for happiness.
Okay. I'm also going to try talking to people like you spoke to the retailers. I think it's very important. Yeah,
I think they have it coming.
I think there are so many, not just retailers, so many people who distinguish. So we've got to talk to them.
Make a list and then take it off.
Okay. Thank you so much. So that was a pleasure talking to you, because everything you said was from the heart. And you are a true motivational speaker, because I wanted to take out my book and start writing a few notes. And
I think that I never thought that I would be a speaker. I was so tongue-tied when I was young. But I think when you talk about lived experiences, it sounds authentic, and it is authentic. This is the only truth I know. And so when you're saying the truth, then you don't have to think when you're talking.
So I guess even ups and downs in your life are great advantages, because the experience that you get out of them.
Yes. I think in many ways it sort of it toughened me up, but also made me gentler, because when you go through great difficulty, you also become more compassionate and very empathetic and kind. I think I like to think that I have some kindness.
Of course.
When you're young, you don't pay attention to all this, but when you approach your 50s and then move forward, I think all of those things come into play. A woman, I think women are so much more after they cross their 50s, because it's all the experiences of a life well lived. All of that comes into play then. And like you said, bearing a child, I think that is the difference between a woman and any other, anybody else in this world. That the kindness and the gentleness that comes when you hold your baby for the first time,
and the selflessness.
The
selflessness.
Yeah, that's what makes a woman. Till then, you're just a girl child. Once you have a baby,
I think you're a combination of girl child, motivational speaker, mother, and everything. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zaki. It was such a pleasure. I'm so grateful to be on your show, I hope that you really do great things with this one. Thank you so much.